Kadosh, good evening. We are going to be doing the halachot now of Erev Pesach that falls on Shabbat. If we have enough time, we'll also go throughout the night of the Seder also as well. But let's try to play by year. Okay, first of all, we're going to speak about Taanit Bechorot. The first thing on the agenda is going to be Thursday morning. Thursday morning, we do Taanit Bechorot. We know that the Bechorot usually, the Bechorim, whether it was a Bechor, the firstborn from the father or from the mother, in order to remember the miracle that happened to them, that they were redeemed on the night of Pesach. So therefore, we do Taanit Bechorot. Now, this year, since it comes out on Shabbat, so what happens is that obviously the Taanit does not push off Shabbat. The only Taanit that pushes off Shabbat is, Shabbat doesn't push off the Shabbat. Yeah? Well, the Kippur we do, it's true, it's Doraita, but Asara B'Tevet, if it would fall out on Shabbat, we would do it. Yeah, if it would fall out on Shabbat. It doesn't fall out on Shabbat. But if it would fall out on Shabbat, as the Budaham says, that we would actually do Taanit. Okay, but it says over here, right, the Shana this year, that it comes out on Shabbat, according to Shitat Shulchan Aruch and Siman Taf Ayin Tziv Bet, in the Yeshomim Batra, he says, once it was pushed off, it's pushed off. You don't even have to do it at all. Meaning, according to Shitat Maran, this year, we don't have to fast at all. Nobody has to fast. However, though, the Ramah, and that is the Minhag of Ashkenazim, they push it to Thursday. So since they push it on Thursday, right, therefore, but you could still get out of it with a Siyum Mesechet. So therefore, it says over here, Rav Ovadia Yosef brings down, since anyway they're doing Siyum Mesechet, so therefore, as a Sfaradim, we should also do a Siyum Mesechet to get out of the problem. So therefore, this year, we also do it. Why? To get out of the problem. We do it on Thursday, and we do a Siyum Mesechet. Okay, very good. And we have to mention to everybody that we're doing a Siyum Mesechet. Okay, next halacha. What happens if a person forgot and they did not do the Taanit on Thursday and they didn't do a Siyum Mesechet as well? And now he only remembers on Friday morning. So on Thursday, he was a little bit out of it. On Friday, he wakes up and he realizes, 1 second, I just come to the Bedikat and I said, I'm a Bechor, but I didn't do the Taanit and I didn't do Siyum Mesechet. I didn't do anything. So some people say that he has to do the Taanit on that same Friday. Or he has to listen to a Siyum Mesechet, and then he'll become exempt. So basically, because of the machloket, obviously try not to get into that problem, because if not, you have a problem. Some people also had a minhag that because there's different machlokot, they would do Siyum Mesechets on both days. Also on Thursday and also on Friday. Who does this until today? Right? The state, no, a different one. You can't do the same as Siyum Mesechet. So you do, the Stipler would do it, and Rav Chaim Kanievsky, his son, would also do the same thing. Which means that because there's machlokot, when do you do the Taanit? Would you do it at all? Would you do it on Thursday or would you do it on Friday? So therefore, they would do a Siyum Mesechet also on Thursday and also on Friday. This year, it's the easiest time to do it. Because, for example, Baba Chaki could do one on Thursday, right? And then we have, who else? Philip could do one on Friday. And then we could have another one, you understand? You could do tons of Siyumim. Doesn't matter. Siyum Mesechet doesn't matter. No, different one means I cannot use the same Mesechet for myself twice, meaning I can't use the same card twice. Once you charge it once, right? But the same Mesechet, different people. Because I learned the Mesechet, he learned the Mesechet, you learned the Mesechet, he learned the Mesechet, so everyone can say what to do it. So this year you could have, I could do the first minyan, he could do the second minyan. He'll do the first minyan on Friday, you do and you could hear from each other. There's no problem. You don't have to do it once. You don't have to hear it more than once. You hear from someone else. You don't have to do it yourself. And by doing that, you hear all the opinions. Yeah, there's no problem. Okay, fine. I can hear you. There's a very big machloket between the acharonim of nowadays. The consensus, basically, there's a huge machloket. What about hearing a Siyum Mesechet through Zoom? So if you remember, meaning that let's say somebody can't come to the Beit Knesset, they're in quarantine, they're whatever the case is. Yeah, they have the virus, whatever the case is. So what are they going to do? So because of the machloket, the poskim, right? Some people want to say that they can rely upon the lenient opinions to get out of it. However, though, if you remember last year, we brought the video set, and there were others as well, that they were very machminim that it doesn't count. So because of that, if you remember last year, we didn't do it. Everyone did their own Siyum Mesechet, if you remember. What we did was that we learned, because basically the entire concept is, what's the concept of Siyum Mesechet? Siyum Mesechet is that you're part of the simcha. That's why you have to partake part of the food, and you're part of the entire everything. You understand? You're part of the simcha. So now what happens is, if you're far away, what part of the simcha is it that I just heard you? Huh? Even if you're here and you don't partake of the Seudot, you're not part of the Simcha. Yeah, but how do you partake of the food? I send you delivery. Mishloach manot. That's what I'm saying. Nah, no, it has to be that I'm the one inviting. I'm doing the Seudot for everybody. I'm doing the Siyum Masechet. So it's a Yom HaTava for me. If it's a Yom Tov for me, I'm going to tell you, listen, Ronen, you know what? We're going to have a Yom Tov, but make sure you bring your own food. You're going to, Kamsang, you're going to tell me, what are you going to send me flying? Huh? You're on, you understand? So therefore, the concept is that it's not nice. So the according to a lot of Shittot, it doesn't help. So because of that, it's better that you do your own. So either you come live, right, or you do your own Siyum. And if you remember last year, we did on a Masechet Megillah. So we all took Masechet Megillah, the Mishnayot, and if you remember, we did it in three times, I think, or twice. We went and we did the entire Masechet Megillah with Rav Vadi Martinura, and that's how we were able to do our own Siyum Masechet. And by doing our own Siyum Masechet, we were able to without any problem. Okay, fine. Next, Mechirat Hametz, selling Hametz. So now a person has to be very, very quick to try to sell Hametz as quickly as possible, and he shouldn't wait until the last minute, because since anyway this time it's going to be selling the Hametz on Friday, so we make sure that we're doing it extra early, right? I still remember every single year it happens that, you know, the first year I wasn't prepared, right? It's going to happen again, right? But it's something incredible. Yeah, what happened is that I didn't actually come and I didn't have any papers with me. And they were calling me, it was 2-3 people calling me last minute. I'm driving to sell the Hametz, and they're already calling me to add in their paper, and that they forgot. And then I have at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Rabbi, I completely forgot. And I'm like, okay. But listen, that's the way it is. A person should not, right? No, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Yeah, but the Avad, there's a whole thing that we make a stipulation with him that if people forgot to bring it, but not all rabbis are good enough. Yeah, they're not all going to be good, nice guys. Yeah, fine. Sometimes you have to do it to teach the people a lesson. Tell them, no, that's it. Throw everything out. Boom. What? Exactly. You do it once and that's never again. 100%. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Listen, if a person forgot and did not sell on Erev Shabbat, which is during the time, which is early in the morning, so then they're allowed to continue selling until the Knisat Shabbat, which means that basically, obviously, we're not talking about that the person, had a Mechirat Chametz. He was doing it by himself, let's say, and he was selling it, right, with a rabbi or whatever, and with a goy, and the rabbi is able to do that until almost Knisat Shabbat, because nowadays, remember, there's no real isur of having Chametz until Shabbat morning. On Friday, there's no real problem. So b'diavad, if a person did forget, so obviously there's more to rely on this year. Now, selling through the telephone or through other types of electronic services, lechatechila, he says that it's better not to do so, right? That it's better to do it through a rabbi face to face. And you should do a kinyan sudar. What is a kinyan sudar? You pick up something, and by picking it up, you're going to acquire, right? You're going to basically appoint him as a shliach, right? And you're going to show that it's actually something very, very serious matter. But b'shat hadachak, if somebody again is going to be in quarantine or he's not able to get to a rabbi, so then he could do it in such a case. Again, we have to always have in mind all the different scenarios. So that's the scenario. If a person cannot do it, so fine. But if not, lechatechila, try to do it face to face to show that it's something serious. It's not a joke. You understand? Remember, Hametz on Pesach is karet. Karet is like eating on Kippur. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't realize that. They think, big deal. Hametz is that. I have it. I don't have it. It's serious stuff. You understand? Meaning that when we put that, if you give that mashal to people, all of a sudden people, you understand? Then they understand. Remember, Hametz is one of the only surim with b'mashil. Mashil means a small, minute amount. Pig, you're not going to be get lashes on eating pig unless you eat how much? A kezait, 28 grams. Hametz, a drop, karet. That's it. You understand? People have to understand that. A lot of people, they don't. Which one? Well, okay, it's on eating chametz. There's a question about owning, but for sure the eating of the chametz. Okay, fine. Bedikat chametz. Okay, we're talking about now checking for chametz. So we know that the checking of the chametz, we're going to do it on Thursday night. Okay, and we check for the chametz after tzeta kochavim. So that's what we wrote in the schedules about, right? So you only do it on Thursday night. Okay, now, even though we're going to do it on Thursday night, we still make the bracha, just like every single year. Okay, now if somebody did not check on Thursday night, for whatever reason, he's obligated to check on Friday, right, with a bracha. Okay, with a bracha. I can't hear you. For sure not. Yeah, you cannot do it on Wednesday. If you do it on Wednesday, it's without a beracha. Yeah, and you're not allowed to do it on Wednesday. It's only if a person's traveling and he's not going to be there on Thursday, you're not allowed to. Yeah, same thing. Anytime beforehand, it's without a beracha. The whole month beforehand, right? You're losing out of beracha. You're not allowed to. What you're doing on Wednesday was nothing. The real Bedikat Hametz is on Thursday night. 100% no, but you still have to do Bedikat Hametz in your house. In a sense. So therefore, you would do Bedikat Hametz in your house without a beracha on Wednesday. Then when you're going to be wherever you're going to be on Thursday, you would check with the beracha in that place. If there was Hametz around. If there was no Hametz around, then you have a problem there as well. Okay? So after the Bedikat, you're going to do Bitul Hametz. So after the Bedikat on Thursday night, remember we still have the same minhag to take the 10 pieces of Pia Kabbalah. Remember that the 10 pieces, we're not talking about the nitty-bitties of the halachos, we already spoke about it, but remember, the 10 pieces of bread, every single one is going to be less than a kazayit. You put it into a paper towel, you write down where you're putting them, right? That means somebody's going to write down where you're putting them to make sure you don't lose it, right? That's what you're going to be doing for the 10 pieces. After finding the 10 pieces, you're going to do bitul chametz. What is bitul chametz? You say, so you're going to say any leaven or any chametz that I have in my possession that I didn't see or I didn't burn, it should be batel and it should be afra dara, which means it should be like the afar haaretz. It's good that the third time around you're going to say which means you're going to add in another shita, which is also making it ownerless. It's not only just you're annulling it, you're making it ownerless. You have to make sure that you're saying it in a language that you understand. And after you finish the Bedikat, you have to make sure that you put all the chametz you're still going to eat on Friday and on Shabbat, make sure you have it in a certain corner, right? Make sure you have it in a corner. So that way it's not going to get all over the house, because if not, you're going to have to do again Bedikat. You understand? You could put it outside in the box. The only thing is, just be careful you don't eat with the lizards. Yeah, okay. Biur chametz. Says the halacha now that after we've done on Thursday night the Bedikat Hametz, on Friday morning we're going to be doing the Biur Hametz. And every single year we do Biur Hametz, right, which is the burning of the Hametz on Erev Pesach, right? And this year we cannot do it because it's Shabbat, so you can't burn on Shabbat. So therefore, what do? You do it on Friday morning. Remember to take the lulav of the Chag Sukkot for the Srefat Hametz as well. That's what's brought down in the Ben Ish Chai. Now, even though on Friday you're still allowed to eat Hametz the entire day, it's still better to burn the chametz just like it was on a normal year. So therefore, if the normal year, right, 12, I think it's 12:12 or 12:08, I don't remember what time, 12:12, I think it was 12:12. So 12:12, that's going to be when the time of burning chametz. So you burn chametz beforehand this year, even though technically speaking, you have the entire day to burn the chametz. Okay, but you still do it, right, as well, and to eat the chametz. Okay, now it says here. So now it says here like this: a person that does finish their chametz completely, which means that he's stopping from eating chametz whatsoever. So then on Friday morning, when he's doing the srefat chametz, then he will also do the bitul. Then he will also annul the chametz again, just like every single other year. But if not, then he would only do the bitul the next Shabbat, basically the next day on Shabbat morning. Okay? Hagalat kelim, Yikaradin, you're allowed to do hagalat kelim until mamash Shabbat. But again, right, we're not going to suspect that maybe you're going to make a mistake like every single other year, but still, there's a lot of people which are machmirin to do it until the 5th hour, until when you're not allowed to eat the chametz, just like every single year as well. Fine. The haircuts we do as normal, lichvod regel, right? Also cutting the nails. According to Rav Vadi Yosef, you're allowed to cut your nails and to take a haircut also in the nighttime, and even according to the Mekubalim, according to him, there's a mitzvah as usual as the sea or the mikveh, or whatever it is, Tisha Kabin is as usual as well. A person should always be careful to make sure that he's got an esh mitzuyah, a fire for Motzae Shabbat. Meaning a person should realize that this time it doesn't help a 24-hour candle or not even a 36-hour candle. He's going to need a 72-hour candle because he needs for Motzae Shabbat and for, right, Sunday night. So he has to make sure, which one? Yeah, but how are you going to, and where, how are you going to light for another one? Okay, if you're going to light another one, If not, then you do, instead of doing that, you do one for two. What's the problem? Yeah? Yeah? No. What he meant is that after the first 24 hours, you light a second one of 24 hours. You could also do that, but I'm just saying, right? But you just do one of 72. Yeah, just don't forget, or that it doesn't turn off earlier. Saying there's a lot of times that happens. Yeah. No, 100%. No. Again, we're talking about that it stayed on a little bit more, but I just explained it. It's okay. Right now, he says over here like this also as well. Hamalikot nerot yom tov b'shemen u'ptil tzaf. So if somebody is going to light with the ptil tzaf, remember the ptil tzaf are the floating wicks. So therefore, lechatechila, it's better to come and to prepare them before Yom Tov in order that it's ready for Yom Tov and Motzae Shabbos. Because if not, there could be a problem of makebe patish and other problems as well. So therefore, it's better to do that. Okay, so therefore, the floating wicks, ptil tzaf. So prepare them beforehand. You're gonna have to prepare around the 4 of them. Yeah. Because you have 2 candles times 2. Yeah? Which one? You could prepare it of Shabbat. You could prepare it of Shabbat. It doesn't have to be Thursday. Yeah? Of course. Yom Tov is also 2 candles. Yeah? Yeah, 2 and 2. Exactly. 2 and 2. 100%. Doesn't matter. We always do 2. Also, the zroa should be roasted in the ke'ara. It should be roasted before Shabbat. And you should put it in the fridge that it should be ready for the Leila Seder. You should also get prepared the Lecha Mishneh for Seudot Shabbat and Yom Tov. Also the vegetables, make sure that you clean the vegetables beforehand, which means if you're going to have to take rid of the bugs or whatever it is, make sure you do it before the Shabbat. Okay, fine. Now it says here like this. A person should be very, very cautious also to prepare the Shaon Shabbat. Why? Remember that you cannot start playing around with timers on Motzae Shabbat. So therefore, on Motzae Shabbat, lights are going to have to be on the majority of the night. Right, because we go into the very late hours in the night, doing the Seder of the Pesach. So therefore, a person should be very careful that he should already prepare from now or before Shabbat everything that he needs for the Shaoneh Shabbat. Also, the people that are going to be in their house on that Shabbat and the night of the Seder, they're going to be somewhere else. They should take the matzot to the place where they're going to be already on Friday. Right now, the reason why is because there's going to be an isur of hachana if I'm going to take it on Shabbat itself. Which means, let's say, for example, I'm going to Haim's, house, for the first night, right? Or, he's not here. Okay, I'm going to Baba Chagi. So what's going to happen is that I cannot come and take my matzot during Shabbat afternoon. First of all, we said on Shabbat, the matzot are mukse. Forget about mukse. Let's say I've got millions of matzot, so they're not mukse. I've got tons of matzot. I could give them to the children to throw up and to use as frisbees, right? They could be using them as frisbees. I have so many matzot, but there's no mukse. But it's achana. I cannot prepare. So what am I going to do? When we finish the Bet HaKnesset here, I'm going to go home, pick up the matzot, and then take them. So therefore, if you already know where you're going to be on the night of the Seder, make sure you take your matzot beforehand. So that way you're not going to have any problems of preparations. Okay? Also on Shabbat, I have to also mention to everybody about the entire concept that we're doing mincha early on Shabbat itself. Remember that we tried to do mincha early for a very simple reason. According to all the opinions, we wanted to try to do Seudah Shlishit after mincha. So now, if you're going to do Seudah Shlishit before mincha, and the latest time to eat a real meal, any type of meal, is 4:30 in the afternoon, so therefore we try to do mincha gedolah at 2 o'clock, and then afterwards, after you've already prayed mincha gedolah, now you can do whatever you want with Seudah Shlishit, but you should try to make sure that you're going to eat Seudah Shlishit before 4. We are doing all of that. I'm going to explain everything in 5 minutes. 1 second. So now it says over like this. The ones that they're going to start measuring the matzot before Pesach, right? So make sure that you do that before Shabbat. Okay, now Asiyam Melacha on Erev Shabbat, it's like a regular year, which means that usually Pesach, you're not allowed to work from after Chatzot onwards, right? Midday onwards. Here it's like a regular Shabbat, right? Because at the end of the day, as long as it's not going to take away from the preparations of Pesach, you're allowed to work like a normal time, okay? So those are the halachot with respect to the concept of preparations beforehand. Now we're talking about Seudot. So now this is what we're talking about. Okay, this is what we wanted. We already did mention this a little bit, but I'm going to mention it again so everyone should understand. Okay, Seudot Shabbat. There are 2 different ways of doing Seudot Shabbat. Right? Way number 1, where you're going to have bread for the Seudot Shabbat. So if you're going to have bread for the Seudot Shabbat, obviously on Friday night, there's no problem whatsoever, right? There's no problem whatsoever of having bread. You could have bread, whatever you want, no problem. But what we always advise people to make sure that there's no problems is the food is always kasher Pesach, right? For many reasons, right? One of the reasons why the food has to be kasher Pesach is how do you clean the pots? Why? Because the pots, you're not allowed to clean them on Shabbat. You're not allowed to use them, right? So how are you going to clean them? And now they're full of Hametz. So now what? You're going to put it in the storage and leave it dirty for 8 days until after Pesach? So that's going to be number 1. Number 2, even if you're going to throw it out, you have to remember there's no garbage pickup on Shabbat nor on Sunday. So now you have a technical problem. Even if you throw it out, it's in your property. Not because you put it outside in your garbage bin, which is still your property, doesn't mean that it's not yours. That's 100% yours. So therefore, that's another problem. So because of those problems, and also the other things, but because of those problems, all the food is kasher Pesach. So what are you only eating? Bread. So now we're going to speak about in a few minutes to do with how do you do with shinui makom, which means changing the place. However, though, when we're talking about the concept of bread, what you do is you go home, you do kiddush, and you do a motzi right away, and you eat a kazait of bread, right? Kabetzav bread, kazait of bread, minimum a kazait of bread, obviously, right? Because in order to do the netilat today with the bracha, but you have a kazait of kabetzav bread. After that, what you do is get rid of the bread.
Friday night?
Get rid of the bread. Friday night. It's Friday night. You get rid of the bread.
Inside the house.
What? No, you could eat outside. You don't have to eat inside the house. You could do it inside of the house, but you would have to broom and you'd have to be careful. Obviously, very good. So you have to be very, very careful. If you have children, don't do it in the house. Even if your children act like children, don't do it. But yes, we're going to speak about that in Shinui Makom. Yes. Yeah. So now what happens now is that what you're going to do is you're going to eat the bread. You finish the bread, you fold everything up, throw it out, or you are outside, you ate outside, you finish, you come inside and you eat all the meal, 100% of the meal. Okay, no problem. That's number one. That's going to be on Friday night. Next Suda of the morning. So anyway, remember, Suda of the morning on 10:58, there's no problem whatsoever. You could do Motzi, Netilat Yadayim, everything, no problem. Okay, so that's also no problem. Now, what happens with Suda Shlishit? So now, first of all, whenever you have leftover of the bread, by 10:58, what you're supposed to do is that you have to make sure that they're very small pieces of bread, less than a kazai, and you either flush it down the toilet or you throw it out in a public garbage, right? But you cannot but you have to get rid of it somehow. So you cannot just not do anything with it. So you have to make sure you get rid of it, okay? And make sure that they're small, small pieces. Try to get rid of all the chametz, so you don't have anything left over, because chaval. No, in the morning. In the morning at 10:58 is when it starts the isur. So 10:58 in the morning, that's the zman isur of chametz. That's when you have to make sure that there's no more chametz anymore. Now, right before the finishing time of the eating of the chametz, you got rid of the chametz, you say the kal Hamira, you clean your clothing, brush your teeth, obviously brush your teeth in a way that you're not going to have an isur, right? Make sure that there's no problem, and then that's it. That's going to be for Shabbat morning. Now, Suda Shlishit, we're going to speak about in a few minutes, but before speaking about Suda Shlishit, there's another way of doing it, right? Which is basically, what happens if you don't want to have chametz at all? So if you don't want to have chametz at all, because let's say you want to make your house 100% kasher Pesach. So we already mentioned, on Friday morning, you do kal Hamira. Friday night, you're allowed to have shmuna matzah. The reason why is because the issue of having shmuna matzah is only during the day of Pesach, not the night before. So on the night of Friday night, you're allowed to have shmuna matzah like bread. And you make a motzi and everything, no problem. During the morning, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to eat matzah, right, during the morning. So what you would have to do is what? Yes. You do hamotzi and matzah. Because of Shabbat morning or Suda Shlishi, what you would have to do is you would have to fry the matzah or cook it in a soup, and therefore it's going to get the taste. If it gets the taste of the soup, right, or the frying, so then it's still a motzi because it has surat apat. It's still a motzi because it has the form of the bread, but it does not become anymore the matzah, which is what you're going to be tzechova on the night of Pesach, because it doesn't have the taste of matzah. So therefore, you're allowed to do that. So that's another way of doing it. Okay. Yes, it does. You make sure that you put it inside the soup, and you make sure that it keeps the shape. What? Yeah, you get a big pot, right? And you put the matzah. It doesn't have to be the round one. It could be also the square one. Remember, we're not the night of Pesach, right? So you could take the square matzot, you put them inside, you make sure that it still keeps the shape. When it finishes cooking, you leave it to get cold, and then you make sure that you pick it up and you let it to dry, right? No, it doesn't always break. No, it does not break. It does not break. Yeah? Fine. Suda Shlishit. Suda Shlishit, there's a few different ways of doing Suda Shlishit, and therefore we're going to explain as follows. Shitat Maran is that you cannot do Suda Shlishit in the morning. Yeah? Disclaimer. Suda Shlishit, you cannot do it in the morning. That's Shitat Maran. Shitat Maran has to be after Mincha. Okay, that's number one. Very good. However, though, there's a Shita of the Gaon Vilna and the Mishnah Brura that they hold that you could do it in the morning. Right? And according to Shita Maran, you cannot. So how do you do it according to Shita Maran? Maran is posek, you have to have matzah, you have to have bread. So how do you do it then? So either you do what we mentioned about the matzah cooked, like fried or cooked, or you could do it with mezonot, which is egg matzah, if it has a good hashkacha, obviously. Yeah? Or, technically speaking, and this is what we're going to try to do here, and now I'm going to put a pause and we're going to explain, right? what we're going to do in the Bet Knesset is as follows. For those people that come to the nets, right after the nets, at around 8:15 or whatever time we finish the nets, we go downstairs, we do Kiddush and Hamotzi on Pitas. Pitot. We're going to have Pitot and Trina and Hummus. Yeah, Pitot. Okay, very good. Yeah, in the olden days. Yeah, the good old days. What you do is that you eat minimum of a kazai, and you say Birkat Hamazon. You already did Seudah Rishona. Now, it's only 8:30 in the morning, 8:45. You go home, and you could have your regular Seudah with your family, right? Without any problem. What? You do your regular meal at home. No, with Hamotzi. And that's going to be considered your Seudah Shlishit. Pitot, or bread, or whatever that you have. We're talking about that you already have. If you eat here, first of all, we're not doing it in the shul. We're doing it outside, right? Not in the shul, right? Outside of the Bet Knesset, we're going to have the pitot and everything. But everyone, that's on your own personal thing. We're doing everyone a favor that we're giving pitot. Nobody has to, you understand? Let's say we didn't offer anything, so each one goes home and they have their own meal. But now, lichat techila, what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is we're trying to split up the meal, okay, which is like the Mishnah Berurah and the Gaon Vilna. But then afterwards, you still weren't Yitzchak Chovah according to Maran. So therefore, what we're going to try to do is still after Mincha Gedolah, you go home and you could have whether it's going to be fruit, whether it's going to be egg matzah, whether it's going to be anything, and then you're Yitzchak Chovah according to all opinions. You're going to be Yitzchak Chovah according to Maran, and you're going to be Yitzchak Chovah according to Mishnah Berurah and the Gaon Vilna. You're being Yitzchak Chovah according to everybody because you didn't do anything wrong, right? First of all, to add, there's no problem. So therefore, again, one more time, what we're going to be doing here is we have nets. After the nets, we go downstairs, we make kiddush, and we do amotzi, and then Birkat Hamazon. You go home and you have your normal meal, right? You still have a long time. You're going to have and that's going to be your Seudah Shlishit for you. That's going to be your Seudah Shlishit. Okay? Now, according to the people that are going to come to the second minyan, which is going to start at 8 o'clock, what they're going to do is they're going to come here at 8 o'clock. We're going to say tefillah from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock finishes Shachrit. Before Kriyat Torah, we're going to go down to do Kiddush and Amotzi. You finish Birkat Hamazon, you come back upstairs, hopefully 9:15, 9:20. Yeah, you do Kriyat Torah and Musaf, and everyone right away goes to home. Hopefully, if you get home, you're still going to be able to have at least 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes to at least start. Because remember, you have to finish the Hametz before 10:58. You don't have to finish your meal before 10:15. So let's pretend I live at the end of Bay Harbor Islands, or I live at the end of Bal Harbor. I live at the end of Surfside, right? Mamash on Bay Drive and I don't know what, and 90th, I don't know what. Yeah? What am I able to do? As long as I got home at 10:30, 10:40, yeah, even 10:50, I did Kiddush, I did Amotzi, I ate kazai bread, right? I finished, I got rid of everything at 10:55, no problem. That's it. What? Why do you need to go to the dog park? Love that the dog park we just mentioned. So now this is the concept of the time of Seudah Shlishit. So after you've already done Mincha, right, which is Mincha Gdolah, so lechatechila everyone should do Mincha Gdolah, which means that you come here at 2 o'clock, right, and you do Mincha Gdolah. After, yeah, then you'll be able to sleep whenever you want. So you come from Mincha Gdolah 2 o'clock. After the 2 o'clock, right, what do? You're able to eat whatever you want until 4:30. So even if you wanted to eat, whether it's the matzah, which is fried, matzah, which is cooked, egg matzah, whatever that you want to do, you understand? You're allowed to eat until 4:30, right? No, egg matzah will be mezonot, unless you're going to eat 162 grams or 216 grams. Yeah, exactly. Fine. Okay, very good. Now you should finish the Seudah Shlishit before the 9th hour. Okay, fine. Next. Okay, next halacha. If right now a person already had in mind during the time of the Kiddush that he wanted to do the Kiddush and the Seudah in another place, so if it's going to be from one room to another room, it's going to be okay. Okay, so then you have what to rely on, and that's Shita Maran. So therefore, by us, you're already having in mind, especially if you could see the place where you are, which means that this. Obviously, if we're talking about Dinei Lechatechilaz, never do this. But you're not in the Lechatechila. Why? Because you don't want to have the house full of Hametz. So therefore, you're going to do it outside. So first of all, try at least that you could see your place. Meaning you could see the place where you're eating. That's the best. Even if you cannot see the place where you're eating. If you had in mind already during the time of the Kiddush that you're going to be doing the Kiddush here and the Motzi here, and you're going to continue eating somewhere else, B'diavad, as long as it's going to be in the same place, from one place to another place, it's going to be okay. Your backyard is considered your still your home. Again, we're always talking about the b'diavad. It's not the lechatchila, but this is just the way that you're doing. Okay, fine. Now, when we're going to speak about the next halacha is okay, fine. Hachana. So obviously, you're not allowed to prepare anything from Shabbat to Motzae Shabbat. You're not allowed to prepare the table, the cups, even the machzor. So technically speaking, remember, even the nap. No, so we're going to speak about the nap. The nap, it says that you're not allowed to say that you're napping for, it says over here, mutar lishon b'Shabbat, in order to have koach, as long as you don't say so mefurash that you want to have thing. But he says, but even if you did say it, b'diavad, we didn't give you a knas. So post factum, we're going to tell you could still sleep. You understand? I mean, that even if, we're going to say that it's going to be okay. So he says here now, a person cannot even bring the machzor. Be very careful. Machzor. So you can't even bring the machzor to the Bet Knesset for a thing. Which means, for example, you did mean Hagadol, and now you're coming here for Arvit, and now you're going to come early, and you want to bring your machzor for the night of Pesach. You have a problem. Hachana. Okay, you have a machzor. So bring it on Fridays. Make sure you bring it on Friday as well. Okay, Friday as well. Also, the Gabei Bet Knesset, remember that the Parnas in the good old days, right? The Parnas used to roll the Sefer Torah. Yeah, Bachaki ran away. Yeah, so he says they used to come and they used to be golel the Sefer Torah, right? So he says you're not allowed to do that either, because that's hachana. So you're not allowed to do that either. Okay. Also, they're not allowed to come and they're not allowed to take out of the aronot on Shabbat or the machzorim. That means even, for example, to take out the machzorim, we have to take it out before Shabbat. Remind me, before Shabbat we have to take out the machzorim, put them out. Well, right, we have to take them out. Everything we have to take it out. So all these things, right, we have to make sure that we're doing before Shabbat. Okay. Other things is if you're going to take your talit. Right? Okay, so basically like this. I'm just going to explain it very simple. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach comes and he says a very general rule in hachana, in preparation, because you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbat to weekday. However, though, says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, anything which is not a melacha, and it's not an isur d'Rabbanan, and there's no tircha, and usually you do it without actually even thinking about it, so you're allowed to do it on Shabbat. So therefore, if you're going to take your talit to the Bet Knesset, right, so you're allowed to bring it back home. You're allowed to take back a sefer to the place after you finished learning. You're allowed to put something back into the fridge or the freezer after you've already finished with it. All these things, why? It's hachana. I took out a chumash. Right? I think some people are machminim on this. They take out sidurim and chumashim on Shabbat and they leave it out. Right? They don't put it back in its place. Why? Hachana. Right? Because if I put it back, I'm preparing. In a sense, so they're very machminim. In a sense, but what are you supposed to do though? Right? You're allowed to take it back. Why not? There's no problem with hachana. Because the concept of hachana is that you're preparing. Here, you're not preparing. You're just doing something without any thought. You're not doing any food. You're not doing anything. So you're allowed to do that. Okay? To put things in the fridge, right, or the freezer. So therefore, if it's going to be that's something that you could still drink during the day, that's going to be permitted. But if it's recognizable that you're doing it for the nighttime, you're not allowed to. So at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, before I go to the Bet Knesset or whatever it is, I cannot come and start putting a whole bunch of drinks in the freezer, in the fridge. So that way on Mosae Shabbat, when I come back home for the night of the Seder, I'm going to have a whole Seudot and everything. You can take out the soup. Yeah, you could. So taking things outside of the fridge, you're allowed to do it, right? Even though here he wants to prohibit it. There's a Rafalk wanted to say that it's going to be permitted. The reason why is because he wants to say that it's not a melacha, and you're just taking it out just that way it becomes better afterwards. It's better for now, right? So therefore, that's what he wants to say over here. The taking out of the fridge, it's not a problem. Here he wants to say it's a sur. Here he wants to say it's sur. This is one of the shitot that they want to say this shitah the Sfaradim. Rabbi Falk says that it's mutar. You're allowed to take out of the Shabbat, right? No, that's what I'm saying. Both of them are probably going to be a sur according to a lot of opinions. You do have a lenient opinion that you're allowed to come and take it out of the fridge, right? Because taking things out of the fridge, you're not actually doing any positive work. You're just taking something out. You're not actually preparing something for the positive, right? It's like the negative and the positive, right? When you take something out of the fridge, you're just cooling it down. When you're putting it in the fridge, you're preparing it for tonight. So again, it's a little bit of the two different things. The same halacha would apply. 1 second. Let me just try to get on. Putting things on the plata when it's off and it's going to turn on, it's also going to be a sud because that's also considered also hachana, right? You're allowed. What? No, but you're not allowed to put things on the plata right now when it's off, even though later on it's going to turn on, right? But that's also hachana. During Shabbat. But you're not allowed to because right now you're doing hachana. You're preparing it for Mosae Shabbat. You're not allowed to prepare for Shabbat, for Mosae Shabbat. So I can't turn my show on Shabbat like that? Yes, Shaon Shabbat, yes. You're not allowed, no. You're not allowed to put the food. You're not allowed to put the food on the plata on Shabbat. You're not allowed to put the food. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, for Motzae Shabbat. Yeah. Yes, obviously. Motzae Shabbat, you're allowed to. But that's halacha. For the Seder, you have 2 hours, 3 hours. You have enough time. Yes, for sure. Once it's nighttime, you're allowed to do everything. Yes. Okay, once it's nighttime. Okay, you're allowed to also broom the floor. There's no problem, right? You're also not allowed to, right? Okay, fine. It says over here like this: the people that are going to be on the night of the Seder by other people, we already just said you have to make sure that you take everything that you need from beforehand. Fine. The next halacha is that on the nighttime you're going to say Baruch Hamavdim Ben Kodesh Lechol, and you're going to say Vatodienu. Right? When you say Vatodienu and Baruch Hamavdim Ben Kodesh Lechol, now you're allowed to do everything. You don't even have to wait for Rabbeinu Tam. Right? You don't have to wait for Rabbeinu Tam. You're allowed to do it right away. Hachanat through a goy is actually a machloket. The Primi Gadim wanted to permit it, but other people say that it's going to be prohibited. So therefore, it's better not to do a chanat through a goy. Meaning, don't do a chanat through a goy, even though if a person did do it, it's okay b'diavad. But lechatchila, try not to get a goy to do a chana, right? During right. There's a question about ben hashmashot that, if I remember correctly, they want to permit it during ben hashmashot. So again, usually ben hashmashot you could actually be more. Which one? Yes. Yeah. The first cup is going to be after nighttime. It has to be after nighttime, according to all opinions. No, because because first of all, you're not allowed to ask a goy something that you're not allowed to do. So ben hashmashot, technically speaking, there are a lot of people that permitted already ben hashmashot. No, you're right. Because it's a v'shu d'shu, that's what you're allowed to do for ben hashmashot. It's not that. It's first of all, it's not that simple. The achana is an isud rabbanan. Yeah, it could be it's a doraita. Yeah. Yes. Yes, it's the same thing. The first cup of the Seder, Kiddush, and Havdalah. It's all the same. So that's why you have to be nighttime anyway. Yeah, so then it says it's good that you have to actually tell the people of your family before you're leaving, tell them what time is Tzeta Shabbat. Because before Tzeta Shabbat, they're not allowed to do anything. So you have to make sure that before you go to the Bet Knesset, tell your family, Tzeta Shabbat is at 8:16. Before 8:16, do not move. Do whatever you want, but don't prepare, nothing. 8:16, that's the time. You do everything. Okay? Anyway, hopefully you should be home by 8:16, right? But that's what we're trying to time it. Because you're allowed to pray Arvit. You're not allowed to pray Arvit early, meaning Plaga Mincha, you're not allowed to do on the Shabbat. But you're allowed to pray Arvit before nighttime in order that you start the meal, the Kiddush, immediately at Tzeta Shabbat, right? Which is at nighttime. And that's what we're trying to do. So what? No, it's not an exception. That's what we try to do Lecha Techilai in order to make sure. Which one? Probably at around 7:30 or 7:45ish. Hopefully we'll finish by 8:05, right? And after, remember that on the first night of Pesach, the first night and the second night, we say Hallel, Shalem, the full Hallel in the Bet Knesset. But we don't sing it. No, we do the full Hallel on the night of Pesach. The only time that we do Hallel on nighttime is night of Pesach. We do full Hallel on the night of Pesach, right? In the Bet Knesset, full Hallel, but we don't sing it. And the reason why we don't sing it is because of that, because we do not want to take too long because we have to get home in order to start the meal. So therefore, right, we start, but you're not allowed to start before 8:16. 8:16 is the first time for everything. For the Kiddush, the Havdalah, the 4 kosot, all the mitzvot, right? Ala kanerot, everything 8:16. So nighttime, that's when it starts everything at the same time. Okay, if a person did forget, shkiyat chama, once it becomes shkiyat chama, you're not allowed to eat anything or drink anything until you do Havdalah on the kos, right? Because again, obviously, okay, there's a whole thing about water, but usually, once it becomes shkiyah, now you're obligated in kiddush, right? In kiddush and avdalah and everything together. Okay, if a person forgot to roast the zruah, the shank bone, so then he's allowed to do it on Mosae Shabbat, but he has to eat a little bit of it on Yom Tov. And he's allowed to roast it, but that's why you have to roast it also before Shabbat, right? You're supposed to roast the shank bone. You're supposed to roast the shank bone before Shabbat. Before. Yeah, I'm not saying you don't eat. You don't eat the roast, but you're supposed to have it roasted. So what happens if a person forgot to roast it? So he should roast it. He's allowed to roast it on Mosae Shabbat on Yom Tov, but if he roasts it, he has to actually eat from it. It's supposed to be roasted. Usually, I think it was roasted. That's what I remember. If a person forgot to prepare a charoset on Erev Shabbat, also he's allowed to prepare it on the night of Yom Tov as well. Okay? the Seder Tefillot. So obviously don't pray Arvit too late because again you have to go home in order to do it. We say the Mizmor Regel Hodul Hashem Kito Kilam Chasto. Okay, fine. They don't have to stand up for the Kaddish Baruchu of Yom Tov. Yeah, please make sure that you spread that around, right? And then they do Arvit of the Chag of Pesach and they do Avdalah and Tefillah, which is Vatodienu. That's everybody together. Okay, if a person forgot the Vatodienu, there's a whole bunch of different rules. We're not going to go into it. If a person forgot, what happens if you forgot the Vatodienu? The Kiddush on the night of the Pesach is the first cup of the 4 kosot, and therefore everyone also has their own cup. They take the cup in their hands, and the Balabait says a Kiddush, and then they have the Avdalah, just like normal. The people that have a minhag of adding the 3 drops into the Kiddush, so they would do so also on this year as well. Okay? Which one? The first one is Avdalah. Because the first cup is Kiddush. This is a very important halacha that I think a lot of people don't know. You're not allowed to do Avdalah on the candle, right? You're not allowed to do Avdalah on the candle, right? Which is basically only for light. And therefore, even for a candle which is a neshama candle, or a candle to pass to another candle, you're not allowed to use for the Avdalah candle. So therefore, there's a machloket. What about the candles that your wife lit for Nerot Shabbat? There's a machloket, but we paskin that you're allowed to. That's also the Shita of Rabbi Tzinu Bashaul, and therefore that's always, so basically it's better to use, right, the Nerot of Yom Tov than using the Neshama candle. So don't use the Nen Neshama for Avdalah. Use the Shabbat candles or the Yom Tov candles that she just lit. Okay, that she just lit. That's what she's already going to do. Now the halacha stays as follows. Yeah, even though, right, you're not allowed to turn off the net of the Avdalah. So you're not allowed to turn off the net of Avdalah, right? Which means, right, you're not allowed to turn off the light of the Avdalah, right? Because again, you're not allowed to turn off anything on Yom Tov. Okay. Now during the Bedikat Shechianu, you're going to have in mind also the Yitzumot Shel Yom and all the mitzvot of the nighttime. So when you're saying Shechianu v'kimen v'gelem zeh, whether it's the women that they do it in the Halaket Nerot for the minhag of the Moroccans, or whether it's going to be for the men when they're saying it on the night of the Seder, they have to have in mind all the Shechianu is for everything, meaning not only just for the Yom Tov. Shechianu is going to be on the matzah and the this and the that, on everything is going to be the mitzvah, the fikuman, everything, all the mitzvot of the nighttime, they're having that in mind. Okay, if a person forgot to do the yaknehaz and he remembers afterwards, there's also a whole bunch of different halachot, which, right, we didn't actually get to because we're not actually going to mention it. And Bezat Hashem, we continue.